Right, good morning everybody. You're a long way back there. There's plenty of room if you want to come to the front. He's shaking his head, no, I'm fine, I'm going to stay here. Right, so welcome everybody. I'm conscious it's a big room and a few people have left, so I will try and keep the voice levels up so you can hear me. So I've got 25 minutes, but I want to spend some time on questions as well and give you a chance to talk to me. One of the things we really do want to hear today is, as we're on doing these sessions over the next four days, is to try and get some feedback from you as the broker market as well. That's really important to us. As it said on there, I'm Jeremy Duncombe from Accord Mortgages, and today really just talking about where we want to go as a market, what we're seeing as a lender. So during the last 2 years, during the pandemic period, what we tried to do as a lender was to talk a lot about what was happening. We tried to share our plans and our views, and we tried to be as open, as honest as we can to talk about some of the challenges, where our thought process was going. Phil talked earlier about what's happening with product pulls. So trying to talk about what's happening, why it's happening, because I think there's a lot of things that just happen, and then the second guessing as to why lenders do certain things, why they decide to move into markets, move out of markets, raise prices, drop prices, whatever. There's all sorts of different reasons that as a lender we make decisions. So today, really the thought process was around trying to share some of that as a lender as to our thought process over the last 12 months about really going for the buy-to-let market. And so there's a lot of thought process involved in that. And looking at lender strategies. So you'll see a lender come into the market and you think, what the hell are they doing, or why they're doing that, or what's the thought process behind it? And that's really what I'm going to try and have a look at and take stock of some of the achievements that have happened over those last 12 months as we start to look to being a buy-to-let lender. And that might sound really strange. We've been lending as Accord in the buy-to-let market for over 10 years. But what I would say is we have been a lender that does buy-to-let. And that's fine. So you sort of fit into the pack. When rates are cheap, you get more business. When rates are not so cheap, then you don't. So your business volumes go up or down. And I think where we got to as a lender said, look, we're doing buy-to-let, but we're not a buy-to-let lender. So from a strategic point of view, what is a lender's thought process, either about coming into the market or about converting into something and creating a different reputation? And as Accord, it's something we did several years ago in the residential market. Accord was very much as a resi lender doing that. When the price is good, we'll get business. When it's not, we won't. And so we wanted to use that as a catalyst and have a thought process about being a buy-to-let lender. And there is quite a significant difference. So what is that catalyst? What's that thought process that a lender will go through to get to the point of being a buy-to-let lender? And that's sort of the context of today. Give you some insight from a lender perspective, but also get your views as to what we can do more of, or what you're missing, what a lender could do. And we've got some of our team here today who are on our stand, again, who can talk to you about some of those areas, but also take your feedback. So if you don't get a chance to do it in this session, please come and see us at the stand and talk to us about some of the things that you feel we could be missing. So let's start with this sort of virtuous circle at the top here. As a lender, where is the opportunity? Where is an opportunity and why is it there? And then really moving on from that, is it sustainable? And they're the first two big questions that we wanted to ask ourselves when we looked at the buy-to-let market. Now, Phil's covered some of that this morning to say around how the market has gone up to about 40 billion, 45 billion last year. We absolutely see that market continuing round about high 30s to 40 billion pounds a year. And that for us is an opportunity. And it's also something that we see being long-term. There's no point coming into an area if you feel that in a couple of years' time that opportunity is going to disappear. So is it sustainable? Yes, we think it is. Is it feasible? And what I mean by that is, as a lender, can we actually deliver something which makes a difference? So do we want to lend in this sector? Can we start to provide a product or a proposition that you feel useful that's going to add something into your market? Because ultimately, from our point of view, we can say we want to lend in buy-to-let. If it doesn't match your propositions that you require as a broker, then there's no point. And I think secondly, the other really important bit on that, can we differentiate? There is absolutely no point trying to compete with Phil on what they do really well, because they're an established lender, they've been doing it for a long time, there's them and Nationwide, and they do it really well. So why would we come in and try and be that? We have to decide if we're going to do this properly, if we're going to be a buy-to-let lender, where do we differentiate and what is our strategy to do something different in that sector? And ultimately to add value to you as a broker, to give you more choice. And I think any new lender coming into the sector has to try and find out what their niche is. And you see that with the specialist lenders who come in, they look and say, where's the gap? What's underserved, and where can we come in and support that? And then when you've decided that, I think the ethos I would use, and we've done it before in things like new build. New build's a really good example of where we've done this in the past. We used to do new build, now we're a new build lender. So if we're going to do it properly. So do it or don't do it at all. So from a mindset point of view as a lender, that's our thought process about moving into a certain sector. And down the left-hand side, it's really summarising some of those points. Why is buy-to-let a sector that I think lenders should be looking at? And what is it, if they're going to come into those sectors, they should be really concentrating on? The history of the market, the quality of the market is absolutely there. This isn't a flaky market that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. It's been around for a long time. There is a real misconception from a lot of credit analysts and from risk teams in lenders that say it's a more risky sector. And on paper it is. And on paper, in terms of what you have to provision for, it is a more risky sector. But the reality of the quality of the business and the low arrears means that it's absolutely a sustainable sector that's proved itself over time. It isn't something that's going to be here today and gone tomorrow. And then the other thing is, can we be incremental? Can we give you more choice? Can we give you something that you haven't currently got already? And then does it fit into our system? So if we're going to do it, again, it needs to be slick, it needs to be straightforward, it needs to be something that gives you the level of service that you want, and it needs to align to our purpose and our message as a lender as well. So if you are in a particular sector and then you go and find something way over here, which for us would be something like bridging, which is doesn't fit into our purpose, we wouldn't go there. Let's leave that to somebody else to actually do. So I think that's the strategy element behind any decision the lender would make. And then once you've done that, it's trying to go in a clear direction and to be able to articulate that into the broker market to talk about what it is that we want to be. And first of all, that involves a lot of research. So, building on the success that we've had over the last 10 years plus as a lender that does buy-to-let. But then what we started to look at about 12 months ago was defining the market, defining the gaps that we saw, assessing what our risk appetite would be. Are we prepared to take more risk? Are we prepared to move into other areas? And then really put the resource behind it to make it happen. So, project teams, release stuff that's incrementally improving your proposition, evolve your range, and really commit to this. And then come and talk about it when you're ready to do so. And you'll notice over the last sort of 12 months or so, we haven't been massively vocal. We've gone at it incrementally. We've come to talk to brokers. We've had our products start to evolve. This is our first opportunity, really, that we've seen being able to come and shout about it and say, we want to be a buy-to-let lender. And you'll see a lot of weight and impetus go behind that over the next sort of few days and weeks, and further evolution coming through there. What it's not, and definitely when we sat down to look at this, we didn't want to copy. We didn't want to just do this on the side of our desk and play at it. We didn't want it to be illusion and mirrors and things like that. And we didn't want it to be a big bang on day one, fall over on day two. So you start trying to get a feel for this strategy and how we wanted to do that, how we wanted to get there. And that transition has actually been going on behind the scenes for the last best part of 12 months. So starting back in May of last year, we moved all of our buy-to-let proposition onto the same platform as we'd used for residential. And that was a big blocker for us before. Different solution, different system, different people, processing it, and it felt like two completely separate lenders. In fact, we were called Accord and Accord Buy-to-Let on the sourcing systems. It was very much split out because it was a different system. So you fix that first, and then incrementally, as I've said, over the last sort of 12 months, we've started to move on. So adding things into our range, which we feel as a buy-to-let lender, you really have to make you, a sustainable buy-to-let lender. So top slicing is a really good example of where that would start. Moving to top slicing, starting to lend on new build. Phil talked about the importance of new build in the buy-to-let sector. And I think that is really, we've seen as the EPC ratings, as energy efficiency becomes more important, if you're going to be a buy-to-let lender, you have to be able to do new build. You have to be able to lend to first-time buyers. We had a situation where we wouldn't lend north of the border. And again, you can't do that if you want to be a mainstream buy-to-let player. And then you start to see how that lands, you start to see how that evolves, what that does to your volumes, can you cope with it, can you service it, can you process it? And then you go again with the next phase of changes. As I say, this becomes an incremental process. And we started to bring things like no minimum income in. And these are the differentiators then. So some of that getting to that point is we need to do that just as a basic buy-to-let lender. But then where can we differentiate? Where can we do something different? Where can we take your feedback as a broker and use that to evolve our product range? So no minimum income was a really important milestone for us to be able to do that. And then moving to first-time landlords, so first-time buyers, new build, first-time landlords, we will do that. And then a really good example of where broker feedback has driven our strategy is the no ERC product. So we were looking and going out to the market and saying, where have we still got gaps? What can we do? And we spoke to a number of brokers who said, we're getting a call for this. We really would like to see products that come out with no ERC. And we introduced those, and they've really made a big difference. Brought more choice. There was only one lender doing it, and now to have that facility of broadening that out. And really interestingly, similar to what happened last year when we moved back into the 90% and then 95% market for resi business, lenders then follow you. So it's creating choice, it's creating more volume in the marketplace, and it's allowing the market to continue to evolve. And that's sort of where we've got to today. There's more to come, and as you sort of watch this space next week, there will be work being announced on our affordability and our stress rates, so there's more to come on that next week. And I feel that ends up in what's the really, really important bit is it's beneficial for us as a lender. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think there was a value for us. But actually, there's a win in there for the market and for you as brokers yourselves. So I said more choice with a trusted lender, and I think a lender who you know, who you've been using, who has been doing buy-to-let, albeit not as a specific buy-to-let lender. But then starting to look at some of those underserved borrowers. So what can we do that's different, and how can we bring more incremental business so you can help more customers and clients when you're back in your offices? And bringing our common sense approach to buy-to-let is exactly what we are trying to do in this sector as well. So not just mirroring, not just copying, but bringing something that incrementally increases your business and therefore your income. Gives you more opportunities to say yes to customers who you either may not have been able to say yes to before, or who have to go down the specialist route and pay higher mortgage rates. Ultimately, the other thing is that it influences future change for us. So really, genuinely, that feedback from you that says, what is it that we're missing? What should we look at next? Where are the gaps? What would you like us to concentrate on? And then from our point of view, initially brings a better return for us. So the margins are higher, slightly higher than they are in residential. We have more provisions to put aside, which is a downside, but actually it increases our lending. We have seen that definitely happen over the last 12 months. But it diversifies our book as well. And from a lender strategy point of view, to have all your eggs in one basket isn't necessarily a good idea. So diversifying our portfolio is a really important thing for us. It also mitigates risk because you've got that sort of counter-cyclical position Whereas if one sector is doing really well and the other isn't, you have got that counter-cyclical opportunity to mitigate your risk profile as well. And that's, I think, really interesting as we start to look at what's happening with the cost of living changes at the moment. You know, the mortgage section, the residential section, we could start seeing some challenges, particularly around affordability. We're seeing lenders start to change the way they assess affordability with the new Office of National Statistics numbers that are coming through, and we will see it being more difficult for buyers to get that full affordability that they want. I saw some figures from a lender recently who felt it could affect their affordability by up to 20%. So if that's the case and it becomes more difficult to move into a mortgaged product, your counter-cyclical risk balance is that you are in the buy-to-let sector where more people will need to go into the private rental sector. So having that ability or that foot in both camps is really, really important. It also will enhance our reputation as a lender. You will see us as a lender, whatever type of business you're looking to do, and expands our reach out into the market as well. So that's really where we've come to, and the strategy and the thought process behind a lender moving into the buy-to-let market, and what our thought process is to get us to that point. And I think what we've seen over the last 12 months are some proof points to show that it's actually working. So our market share has definitely improved. We've seen our market share almost now reach the levels that we are in the residential sector. So we have a residential market share figure that we aim for. We're approaching that now in the buy-to-let sector, and it's always been a lot less than that in the past, about half that. Really importantly, as we've introduced the new criteria, is that making a difference? And absolutely it is. Over a third of the business that we are now writing on buy-to-let is on one of those new propositions that have come in over the last 12 months. And we can identify it back to, you know, whether it's top slicing, no minimum income, ERC free, whichever one of those products we can cut and paste and say how much is coming in on those particular products. And it's really reassuring to see that we're increasing our volumes on those new products, which means it's incremental. New brokers are definitely using us. We are speaking to brokers we've never spoken to before. They are using us, they're staying with us, and they're becoming advocates for us. And again, that's an area I'd be interested in feedback on as to how that interaction works. You know, what's the best way that you want to be interacted with? Is it what sort of marketing? Is it through telephony? Is it through face-to-face? Because we, again, would look at things like our sales force and our sales team and make sure they're pointed in the right place and we have the right numbers. I talked about your feedback driving change. We've had examples of where that's worked on the ERC product, and again, we want more of that. And the proof points, it's increasing our volumes, but it's also the fact we moved it onto the new system last year, the same system as we have for residential. Brokers are used to it, it works really well, and therefore our speed to offer has reduced, and we are turning cases around more quickly. And the other really interesting thing that's happened, it's improved our NPS score. So our Net Promoter Score, which we look at really, really closely across both our residential and our buy-to-let business, our scores have gone up on our buy-to-let business over the last 12 months as we've seen these changes come in. So brokers are happier with the service, happier with the proposition. Their scoring is higher for service and general perception of how we stand as a lender. So from that point of view, you know, it has been a real success. Hopefully what the last sort of 15, 20 minutes have done is just give a bit of insight as to where a lender would look when they're moving into a new sector. This isn't just, we'll decide to move to buy-to-let tomorrow and we'll just dump a load of products on the market and see what happens. There's a thought process that goes here, and therefore, with 5 minutes to go, I've finished.